Thomson Reuters Regulatory Intelligence has carried out its 9th annual survey on the cost of compliance and the challenges financial services firms expect to face in the year ahead. Senior compliance and risk practitioners from more than 800 financial services firms across the world took part. Stacey English is Thomson Reuters Head of Regulatory Intelligence, here to tell us about the latest findings. Nice to see you again, Stacey. Budgets and resources obviously central to this once again. What sort of trends are we seeing, in particular when it comes to the level of resources and budgets available?
Well, certainly hearing from 800 financial services firms gives us really credible, deep insight into some of those trends. And the real value for other firms is being able to compare themselves to their peers to see what everyone else is doing. And what we've seen over the last couple of years is the first signs of emerging resource constraints where firms are sort of looking at more creative ways of managing risk and compliance. But what's certain is that firms are investing still heavily in compliance. Over 2/3 are expecting their budgets to grow. And there's quite a lot of consistency in where those budgets are being spent. I think it's 2/5 are planning to grow their teams, and those in growing those teams is going to be in specialist technical resources and at the much more senior level. And they're also factoring the fact that these senior staff are actually going to cost more. There's a slightly different picture for the bigger firms, the G-SIFI firms. And that's important because they tend to be a leading indicator. And what they're telling us is that while sort of just under half are planning to grow their teams, at the other end of the scale, 11% are actually planning to reduce the size of their teams. Right, okay. So as a leading indicator, it might give us an indication of future trends that actually sizes and skill sets within teams might change.
And I was going to come on to what you gather from them, all of them, is the biggest challenge when it comes to compliance over the next 12 months, and how that differs from what we've seen in the past years. Yeah,
well, it's something we specifically ask. And we really appreciate the sort of candid and detailed responses that we get back, and we read every single response. And what's clear is that there is such a wide spectrum of challenges that in itself is an issue for firms in deciding where to prioritise. But the single biggest challenge that's coming through, yet again, is this continuing regulatory change. And what we're starting to see different is the language that's been used, and coping is coming through quite a lot in managing that regulatory change. So here at Thomson Reuters, we're tracking over 216 regulatory alerts every day. No signs of that slowing down. And firms are telling us as well that they are expecting to see more coming out of regulators. Over 2/3 are expecting that to go up. And again, that's an uptick since last year. One of the things that's different from last year is that data privacy and GDPR has been called out specifically. And no doubt that is driven by deadlines and implementation challenges this year. We also asked about the challenges that the boards are facing. And again, a very similar picture in that it's regulatory change, like continuing regulatory change, and GDPR, but what's also concerning boards is more intense regulatory scrutiny from their supervisors.
So boards is one thing, the challenges for the board. Personal liability is another, and that really is becoming a reality for all senior managers now. What are the expectations for compliance managers over the next year, and how has that changed? How much more severe has that become?
Yeah. Well, personal accountability and liability is a huge concern for compliance officers. We've seen sort of fluctuation in their thoughts on this over the years, but it's remarkably persistent that they are concerned about this. And this year, what's particularly concerning is that 18% think their liability is going to increase significantly. So they're expecting a really, really big change. And we think that is driven by accountability regimes that are being implemented around the world. And in regions such as Australia and Ireland and Singapore, Hong Kong, are all starting to roll out or have rolled out or are planning to similar accountability regimes to what we're seeing in the UK.
Interesting. And finally, Stacey, one thing we haven't talked about is technology. Clearly this is playing a major role. not just in this space, of course, but in every space. What is the feedback you're getting with regards to technology, whether this is an enabler or whether this creates more challenges for compliance managers?
Yeah, mixed picture actually. Technology itself is having a bigger impact on compliance than ever before. There are potential benefits from things specifically regtech and fintech. So we're finding that around 41% of firms are planning to spend time, compliance officers specifically, spend time reviewing and assessing these solutions to see if it can actually bring benefits to them this year. In the larger firms, that's around 55%. So a big chunk of compliance actually looking at technology to help them. Balance that though, then there are heightened regulatory risks. A lot of these firms are living with outdated IT infrastructure, legacy systems, all of which are going to need upgrading, are expensive and need to be fixed. They're working with patches and workarounds, that sort of thing. And of course, data security and cyber attacks are never far from the headlines, and every firm is very vulnerable to all of that. These sorts of things might have been sitting with IT and technology functions in the past, but they are a priority for regulators now. Yeah. And that means they're a priority for compliance officers. So we can expect that side of technology to impact compliance this year, in that they will be looking at cyber resilience, assessing how exposed they are, and it'll just going to make it an even busier year for compliance officers.
All right, very good. Stacey, thank you very much indeed. We'll be sitting here next year, discussing next year, see how things have changed. Stacey English, Head of Regulatory Intelligence at Thomson Reuters. Don't forget to take a look at the website. You can find all of the interviews with Stacey and with her colleagues, risk.thomsonreuters.com. I'm Axel Threlfall, this is Reuters.